Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video, and I don't do this very often, but I actually want to just sort of go through one of my Forbes articles that I wrote today, because this is something I've been kind of formulating for a while, and it's a bit of a compilation of kind of a bunch of my past videos here in terms of my current issues with Destiny's onboarding process in regards to content vaulting, and then stuff like the recent Xbox Game Pass removal, the Forsaken pack, all of this disparate stuff kind of coming together where I believe it makes the game both too hard to access for new players and like too hard to explain for them what's going on, while also kind of exhausting the people who stick with it the whole time. So this was my kind of attempt to streamline the game, both in terms of what's available for free-to-play players, while retaining motivation for why you would keep current with the game, and also knowing that like Bungie needs to make money. So, like, I'm not an idiot. I know this game is very expensive to support, and yet I think they have done very well. And the tweaks I'm suggesting here, I don't think would be some sort of like massive, revenue loss or something. But obviously, I am just Joe Armchair over here. Guessing at things, and I do not have access to Bungie's financials or anything like that. So I am just sort of saying what I have been thinking for a while, and you can take it or leave it. This is not like the most comprehensive thing, but I try to cover kind of all aspects of the game and kind of all of these different issues that have come up over, I would say, the last couple of months, especially in regard to all of these various issues. So I'm going to just skip ahead to my main bullet points here, where this is all based on the thing I talked about in my video. These error videos popping up on Forbes. This is related to the video I did a while ago about how this is fundamentally based on a rolling expansion system. So the idea is that when a new expansion hits, all previous expansions are made free. So in this case, like last year when Beyond Light hit, Forsaken and Shadowkeep would have been free. This year when Witch Queen hits, Beyond Light would be made free, and so on and so forth. This solves a problem of not having a ton of content for free-to-play players to do anymore, because once they carved out, not only they carved out the Red War campaign, the first two DLCs, and then the first bit of seasonal content of the game all at the same time, and all of that used to be free-to-play. So we are left with this Shah Han quests, and like the playlists, and then like a raid and a dungeon, and that's pretty much it. And they are not adding new stuff to the stuff that is accessible for free players. So when a new player tries to start, you have to have this big conversation with them of like, well, like, should I tell them, after they finish the free intro quest, like, should they buy Shadowkeep? Because that's like the most coherent whole thing. Like Forsaken used to be, I'd say, easier to recommend because it's one of the best, probably is the best expansion. It had a very cohesive story, but now that's being cut out of the game. And so it's kind of Shadowkeep or nothing, but if you don't tell them to get Beyond Light, they can't use Stasis. If you tell them to skip ahead to and not buy any of the expansions and just jump into the season, they're going to be missing both Stasis and the Middle Tree subclasses, apparently, because that's how that works. So this way, you would always have probably at least 2 full expansions worth of content being offered for free, in addition to the kind of baseline free-to-play stuff that they already have. Keep in mind, with content vaulting, we lost 5 raids, like 3 full raids and 2 raid layers, and then a full vanilla game's worth of story quest lines, DLC quest lines, and then whatever kind of micro storylines we had for the season. So I think you need to replace that with something, and I'm continually like disappointed that the answer wasn't to make Forsaken free. It was to carve out the story missions, make them free for 3 months, and then they're still selling the extra pack of the dungeon, the raid, and the exotics in like a new pack, which is still splintering the player base even further, even if that's $10 or whatever it is. So kind of moving on from this and related to this, another thing I kind of think is key to this is saying that I think subclasses should be independent of expansions. Like, they can arrive with expansions, but I think you are going to run into a lot of trouble if you start kind of coordinating them off into specific expansions or telling free-to-play players they must own this expansion to do this thing. We're seeing this demonstrated in 2 ways right now, where we have this weird confusion where, so if you're playing on Xbox and you've just been getting all the expansions for free, If you lose that, you will then lose access to your middle tree subclass for some reason, because you need to own. We decided the answer to this was you need to own at least one expansion to have the middle tree. We do not know how this is going to work with light subclasses 3.0. They may lock some supers behind a paywall. That it sounds ridiculous, but it's that would be in line with the current system, the way that's set up. If they locked, the middle tree supers or Banner Shield or Nova Warp or whatever the other ones are called, and that seems possible. But also, in regard to stasis, it seems weird to tie an entire elemental subclass to a single expansion out of like 3 or 4 available expansions. And pretty much the past year, before they nerfed it a bunch of times, stasis was like pay to win in PvP. And I mean, it effectively was because of how overtuned it was when it got here. So my recommendation is that I think they should keep introducing new subclasses to keep players engaged. But when they do, I think that they should separate them out. So if there's a 5th darkness subclass that comes with Lightfall, my advice would be to launch that kind of separately and let people do the whatever darkness story quest to unlock it. And yet, and once they do, maybe they will be inspired to get the actual story expansion with all of the stuff attached to it. But it puts everyone on the same playing field. So I that is something that's been bothering me recently, ever since I found out about the middle tree stuff. And for me personally, I think this is just important for kind of the overall health in the game and making new players not feel like they are just like totally in the dark and totally without the access to all of these different tools, especially if we are moving everything to an aspect and fragment system where that's going to be even more convoluted. If some aspects and fragments are grayed out unless you own, an expansion or whatever, like that's really convoluted and confusing. Now we move to the unpopular suggestion I'm going to make to offset some of the revenue losses from the fact that you no longer have to buy older expansions. I would raise the price of each season of Destiny to $15 instead of $10. I think seasons are worth $15. You get the 100 rank season pass, which a lot of games, let's be honest, would just sell that for $10. But also you get all of the story content. And I think this past year especially has proven that Bungie can definitely produce a season that I would say is worth $15 over the course of 3 months, or in this case 6 months, which is anywhere from $2.50 to $5 a month for a Destiny season. I do not think that is too absurd. This would come with one caveat where I didn't mention this explicitly, but in effect, season passes would no longer expire, at least through the end of that year, I'd say. More and more games are moving to a model where your season pass does not expire. We have this in Halo, we have this in Avengers. It's kind of becoming a common thing where okay, if you spend $15, you can unlock all that stuff eventually. Right now, you can buy old seasons, but you do not get the season pass. So under this system, if you missed the last 2 seasons or something and you threw down $30 for them, you could essentially activate all of the season passes at once and kind of unlock things as you leveled up the current season as well. I'm never a fan of expiring season passes, as that's just a really cheap way to kind of force engagement. And even though I don't think it's particularly hard to get to rank 100 with any remote amount of focus on XP gains, I think if you're going to raise the price, at least kind of offset that by being okay, if anytime this year, because they're going to remove all the seasonal content, so that couldn't really last past a year, you will get that. One thing you'll notice in this whole argument is I'm not talking about content vaulting here. I have to just sort of accept that content vaulting is the thing. It's going to happen. They're going to remove seasonal content after a year. They are probably going to scoop out older content continually, like we're seeing with Forsaken. But another thing with the rolling expansion thing is the content that they are going to be taking out is probably stuff that will have been free for a long time, rather than this weird okay, you have 3 months to beat the Forsaken campaign before it converts into the Forsaken pack and we kill the actual campaign part of it. So that would avoid that issue. Further in this, I do not want to start down this road of selling raids and dungeons separately. We are seeing this in a few ways. We have this with the anniversary pack, which is $25 for the dungeon and a bunch of armor and weapons. And then there's the deluxe edition of Witch Queen, which comes with 2 dungeons. And if you can't just buy the season pass and get the dungeons, and again, this is another issue where it is very convoluted, and it's not really just even about the money, because like I say in this paragraph, under my new system, if you have a $40 expansion and then seasons are $15, that's $60. So it's $100 for a year of Destiny content. For me, that is an acceptable price for like the actual content you get from Destiny for a year. Personally, that's my opinion. That is how much it currently costs now for the Grand Witch Queen Deluxe bundle, which contains everything. So all of the stuff we said is sold separately: the anniversary pack, the dungeons in the bundle, the seasons, and the expansion. All of that is $100 included in that pack. So it is the same price here. So I am not saying that Bungie should be selling less dollars of stuff per year. I am just saying to not package it in like a goofy way like this. And like if a dungeon launches in a season, if you buy that season, you should get the dungeon. Like I don't think they need to overcomplicate this. But now we're starting to see them, chop up raids. Or I mean, I don't know if they're going to end up selling the reprise raid separately or whatever, but we know they're at least like kind of trying to do this with dungeons in some way. And again, it's another, thing where it's like, okay, my buddy plays, oh no, you got to buy this one dungeon pack to like get into this thing we want to farm and stuff. It's unneeded complication where I think you can have the same result for literally the same dollar amount and have this just be less complicated, but then not have it feel bad like the current system is starting to with these different like sold separately packs. Like you could say that offers like more choice and stuff, but I don't think that's the right path to go, honestly. Continuing going, this is not really a paid thing, but I think this is just like a new player thing where I would like, they have the little timeline now on the map, but all it says is like a little paragraph, or not even a paragraph, like a couple sentences about each season or about the expansions and seasons and stuff. I would record a little video, like have, whoever was the relevant voice actor that season, like have Keitel or Zavala or someone record a Season of the Chosen recap. It could be like a minute, 2 minutes, something short where like you can just have a previously on Destiny thing where they kind of explain what's going on, or hire Buddy from Island or whoever, the usual suspects here. I do not think the game does a great job of allowing people to catch up without like sending them to YouTube and being like, so what did I miss since X amount of time? They already have the timeline in place. I think all they need to do is kind of add a little bit of, it could be like a mashup of cutscenes and the narration and stuff, and just like literally just like a very short video kind of explaining what people have missed. Back to money stuff. Eververse. I am not like proposing any giant crazy overhauls to Eververse. I think that's maybe its own issue. And it also, like, leaving Eververse mostly the same at least allows, us to say, okay, Bungie, yeah, it's $100 of content, but also you have just essentially unlimited Eververse monetization where there's hundreds of dollars worth of stuff sold in the Eververse store every season, every single season. And yes, some of it can be bought with Bright Dust, but there is a large amount that can only be bought with silver. And obviously that is a big revenue generator for them. So I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to say something as basic as just shut down Eververse. Like, give us all this stuff for free. Like, yeah, in a perfect world, great. But like, we got to live in the real world here. And that's just not going to happen. I think they should go back to doing some stuff like they were doing before. Like that one season, they took armor out of the Eververse and put it in Prophecy. I think they need to do that more than once. I think they have gotten better with some earnable cosmetics and things like that. I also said that there are ways that they can monetize things that they're not taking advantage of. Now that Sunsetting is dead, there's no reason to not have legendary weapon ornaments again for people's favorite legendary weapons. I've been saying this forever, but if they ever let us modify our faces again, in addition to kind of editing them, they could easily sell, bonus crazy hairstyles for for silver or something, like very, very cosmetic things that, maybe everyone wouldn't want, but a certain subset of people would kind of eat that kind of stuff up. So I think they have not even kind of maximized the kind of cosmetic stuff they can do. But that leads me to, of course, my last point. The main Eververse change I would make is there is no transmog cap. So I'm even willing to meet them halfway here in that my idea is that transmog would not have a cap. You can buy as many bounties as you want at any time with Glimmer and then grind them. There are hundreds of items. I think it's at least 300 something items across classes that you can It might even be 300 a class. I don't remember, but it's a lot. So it would take you forever to do this like manually. But the point is like instituting a long-term grind there and allowing people to do that if they want can coexist with a system where, okay, I don't want to do a bazillion grinds for something. I just want this right away. Then you can still sell transmog synths if you really want to, for people who want to like skip that and not have to do whatever the bounty is, even if the bounties are not as bad as they used to be. To me, that is a middle ground. Like, I'm not even saying like they need the Outriders system and everything is instant and free and whatever. And again, that's perfect world, but I'm trying to meet them halfway here, where they can still sell synths, but also allow people to grind endlessly for them. So all of this, my summary here is kind of what my main goals of this are. So with both systems, there's still $100 worth of content being produced between one expansion and 4 seasons. I upped the price of the seasons, but I also just, the fourth point here, I cut out the idea of selling dungeons or raids separately. This figure is bolstered by Eververse purchases, which is always going to be the case. You have seasonal Eververse stuff, you have holiday Eververse stuff. Like, Eververse is a big revenue generator, and we don't need to pretend like it's not. Like, obviously it is. Evie, you're squeaking. And then this would also provide a large amount of free-to-play content, with past expansions going free, and it would create a level playing field with everyone have access to the same subclasses at all times, even new ones. And I don't think that should be something to, you want the overpowered ice class, like, buy this one expansion out of 4. Like, I don't think that's a good system. So this is kind of my grand plan for how I would restructure Destiny if I was CEO of Bungie, and that is not going to be the case. But this is just kind of a project I've been working up in my head, and sort of just the compilation of all these different issues that I see the game starting to run into. Again, like, I think the content of the game itself is great. I think they have done a fantastic job this year. I am super pumped for the Witch Queen. I think all of that looks amazing. It's just that I want a way to better, like, onboard people and like be able to recommend this to people and explain like, oh, you can do all this free content, and then you should catch up with us and buy Witch Queen and the season pass, and then we can do stuff together. A pushback I got already was like, oh, well, what about the people who are going to be mad that their expansion's free after a year? It's like, okay, well, if they say this up front, like, if you want to wait a full year so you don't have to pay anything, I guess you can. But like, I think there are enough Destiny people who want to keep current with the game, who want to, play everything as it comes out, that I think this would work perfectly fine. And you're not going to have like the entire player base just like moving to a model where they're waiting a full year to actually like dive into the content. I don't think that's how that would work. And a lot of MMOs already do something like this, where, a new expansion comes with past expansions or something like that. But the current system, the way they have it set up, I think is too convoluted and too confusing for not even just new players. Like, half this week has been me being confused about the middle tree subclass thing. Like, it is a not very coherent system, and I think it could be improved in a lot of ways, and one of those ways just happens to be fixing transmog also. So, Anyway, that's my big pitch for this. I do not expect anything to come of this, and yet, I don't know, just kind of a fun thought experiment. And let me know if you agree or disagree, and we can keep talking about it, as I'm sure this will not be the last time it comes up. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.